It must be a TSP subscriber calling in. Maybe it's Adam Schefter calling in,
Yeah.
giving us the most recent information that we could possibly have to bring to you, the TSP community. I bet it is. I bet it is. Or Dan Orlovsky, perhaps, Mina Kimes, Kay Adams.
It's
Maybe it's Sam Darnold. Maybe he's listening to this right now. He's like, "You don't think I played the game of my life? Who do you think you are? You don't want your son to become a Seahawks fan, and he lives in the Pacific Northwest? What's going on here?"
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Sideline Podcast, episode 72. My name is Kevin Showalter. That is Jared Booker. How are you doing this evening, my friend?
Doing well. The week went fast, which is always a good thing. Yeah, kind of sad the football is over, but there's plenty to talk about, so I'm thankful for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. If you love talking sports and building community, go ahead and hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Give us a follow on X. We really appreciate that. Again, thank you for taking time out of your busy day to spend here with us. Drop us a comment in the chat with some of your biggest recaps and reactions from the 2025 NFL season. We'd love to hear who's the biggest disappointment, who's the most excited. Seahawks fans, let's hear you in the chat as we go. So tonight we have what's trending in sports. We've got some college football storylines. We will recap the Super Bowl between the Seahawks and the Patriots, and then we're going to finish up the show with a recap of the 2025 season, as we just mentioned. So without further ado, why don't we jump into some what's trending in sports. So yeah, anything buzzing on X this week as you've been over there on social. But I think one that stands out to me is the Seahawks winning the Super Bowl and then planning to sell the team. I thought that was really interesting news and great timing for the marketing purposes there. I mean, that's about as that's about as good as it gets for when you're about to sell something, reach the pinnacle. So any thoughts on that?
I can it makes sense, and then it doesn't make sense. Like I believe, according to my notes here, the owners are big into philanthropy. I don't know that they really want to own the team for I don't know that it's ever been the plan to own the team for a long period of time. It makes sense if this is an investment, sell high. Like you said, I mean, you can't sell any higher than a Super Bowl winning team. Something that's interesting is the Seahawks are past the date. So the state of Washington, and I don't know when this date cut off, but the state of Washington would have collected 10% of the sale in the past, but we're past that date now. Washington State's hands, grubby little hands, are off of that money, and I mean the valuation is like 6.6 billion. That'd be like a record sale. So I don't think the debate is if they're going to do it, but when and how. But I could also see a world where they're like, we just won a Super Bowl. Like, what gets more exciting than that? Let's run it back. And so, but yeah, if they're gonna do it, I would say now is the time to maximize those dollars.
Yeah. And another thing trending this week, obviously it's been the worst kept secret in the NFL, but Klint Kubiak officially took the head coaching job for the Raiders. I think it's a great hire. You got the young coach with a young quarterback, presumably, in Fernando Mendoza. How do you like the fit between Mendoza, Kubiak, first year? What should the Raiders' expectations be for next year? Are they going to get the quick turnaround like the Patriots, or this might take some time there in LA?
I think this is gonna. Oh, and yeah, I think this is gonna take some time in LV. Yeah, these teams are moving around, but I think it's gonna take more time. What Vrabel was able to do with the Patriots is unprecedented, and we'll get all. That's one of the things I want to talk about a little bit later that we'll touch on in our NFL segment. But there's a winning culture. There's stable leadership within the Patriots organization, and that just does not exist in Las Vegas. I think Klint Kubiak is an absolute stud, and having Fernando Mendoza is going to be helpful. Kubiak comes from the Shanahan tree system, heavy personnel, under center play action focus. So the interesting part here is that Mendoza actually took right around or under 3% of his snaps in college under center. So I don't know if that's going to be an issue or not, but do not expect the Las Vegas Raiders to have a Patriots like turnaround. It's going to take a lot more time. There's just been trouble there uh, for a while. So
One thing on that note that I thought was interesting this week is I think Max Crosby is fed up with all the trade rumors. I mean, he just signed a big deal. He's exceptionally committed to the Las Vegas Raiders, and he had some spicy words to say about people putting him in trade rumors. So if you didn't see that, go ahead and check that out. We won't bring that up here on this family friendly program. But yeah, any other storylines you saw this week in the week of sports before we jump into some college football?
yeah, I want to touch bases on, and I know we talk about the transfer portal, but like as far as college football goes, that is what we have to talk about right now. So I brought up I've got a list of transfer portal quarterbacks, where they're transferring from, where they're transferring to. And my question is, I'm going to dump some information on you. My question for you is which team stands to have the quickest turnaround? Which transfer will have the most impact? And so we've got Brendan Sorsby coming from Cincinnati to Texas Tech. Texas Tech obviously making it to the college football playoff. Sam Levitt from Arizona State to LSU. Arizona State had not the year that they were expecting. Darian Mensah from Duke to Miami. That one's so interesting to me. Byron Brown from South Florida to Auburn. Josh Hoover, TCU to Indiana. And then I guess the last one I'll throw in here is Rocco Becht from Iowa State to Penn State. And so I'm wondering from you, like, which one's the most impactful? Which team is going to have a better year next year because of this transfer portal quarterback class?
There's a lot of good options there. Obviously, we've talked about Lane Kiffin quite a bit on the show, and Duffy isn't here to defend his Lane Kiffin love, so we'll just we'll leave that there. But I like Rocco Beck following Matt Campbell to Penn State. I don't know if it's national championship expectations, especially with how many transfers they've had going out of the building. But I like that transfer. You get your quarterback in your first year there, kind of help the rest of the team get up to speed with what Campbell wants to do. And then I'm really kind of disappointed Byron Brown went to Auburn. They seem to be a quarterback killer of a school recently. Obviously, Cam Coleman went to Texas, but I wish he would have went somewhere with more of a history of, and obviously they've got Cam Newton, so they have a history of using quarterbacks, but in recent history, it's not been so good. But he is a specimen. If you've not looked up Byron Brown highlights, go ahead and do that after the show. But he is quite the talent. I'll be interested to see how they utilize him, especially with a Cam Coleman out the door. I believe Singleton graduated, moved on to the draft. So the cover's not bare in Auburn, but those two are the two that stand out to me. How about you?
Yeah, I actually like the Byron Brown to Auburn. I think Auburn excels when they have a dual threat quarterback. We saw that with Cam Newton last year when they threw Deuce Knight in. Now, granted, it was against I don't even remember who it was. It was not an elite team, but the guy had a record game rushing and throwing the ball. I think in the SEC, that's Auburn's calling card to get back onto the national spotlight is to have someone who can sling the ball, but also threaten with his legs. Another one that's really interesting to me is the Darian Mensah. It's hard to. I think that Miami's just going to have another crazy year next year, and I don't know if it ends with them going to the national title, but they're certainly going to the playoff. Malachi Tony's coming back. They're just reloading, and so Darian Mensah I was not able to realize the extent of his potential at Miami or at Duke, but I believe that he's going to do very well next year at Miami. So very interesting.
No, for sure, for sure. And this, I pulled our next college football storyline is from an ESPN article that I thought was really interesting. It's kind of breaking down. Maybe we'll put a link to that in the show. But they broke down some superlatives for new coordinators and new locations. And so I wanted to read through some of these and sort of get some of your reactions. Obviously, one of them is Tennessee, new defensive coordinator, which is why the old checkerboards on our background here. But we'll get to that in a second. Let's start with Northwestern. Chip Kelly taking the Northwestern job. Can he turn Northwestern into an offensive powerhouse. He's kind of, I don't know, he sort of peaked in Oregon. Like he's been okay. He's been had some ups and downs since then, but it's just not the same. Like, I mean, he was striking fear into teams when he was on the Oregon Ducks. It's just not been the same since he went to the Eagles. It didn't work out. Can he kind of revitalize his career here in Northwestern? Maybe land a head coaching gig, put them on the map as an offensive powerhouse.
Well, I think it's a dart throw for Northwestern and a win-win for Chip Kelly. Last year, Northwestern finished 7-6, and they only averaged 23.4 points per game. Kelly, obviously, with the baseline and the history that he has as an offensive powerhouse, high flying offense, I think that they're going to do better next year. But they don't have to be elite for Northwestern fans to say, wow, that was a great hire. So I think smart move for Chip Kelly to step into that, because I think you can only go up from how Northwestern did last year. I do not think it ends with him landing a head coaching job. I think that ship has sailed for Chip Kelly. He fits well in a coordinator position. I think that's just his lane, and he would be wise to stay in that.
Yeah, excel in a narrow focus. I thought an interesting one here as well was Indiana's Bryant Holmes, Mike Shanahan, Matt Patricia, and then I believe Miami, either both of their coordinators, both of those teams in the national championship were able to retain a good bit of their coordinating staff. This is different than what we see in the NFL, where if your team does well, typically that means your guys are getting poached. And so, what are your thoughts on old Signetti retaining his guys back in Indiana this coming year?
That just speaks to the Indiana culture. I think that there are jobs out there where it's about the money. It's like, you know what, this is a black hole. I'm here to make as much money as I can. And then I think there are programs like Indiana where it's like, I might not be making as much as I could, but I love what's happening here in Indiana. I love working for Kurt Signetti. I love being a part of something historic, which is Indiana being catapulted into the national spotlight. And I think they want to come back and repeat. I mean, that's what's in the minds of all Hoosier fans, and that challenge is probably a strong enough driver for these offenses. I have no doubt they were contacted for other positions, but I think it just speaks to the character and the culture at Indiana for those guys to say, you know, I'm sticking around.
Yeah. And I mean, that level of loyalty and commitment in 2026 is pretty crazy. I do think it was interesting in the national championship. They were really highlighting how some of those guys, when they started out as interns, I mean, they were either not getting paid or getting like something like 20,000 a year, something like that. Don't quote me on the number, but just the loyalty of those guys to stick it out. And you have to think Sig was giving them a little bit of a bonus to stay as well. But yeah, huge win for both of those programs. Let's go Tennessee here. Old Rocky Top. We got Jim Knowles. He was a DC for Ohio State the year they won the national championship. Quick stop in Penn State last year. Obviously, a new regime there, so he is out of Happy Valley. Jim Knowles, Tennessee. You've had some talented players in Tennessee on the defensive side. Can he help? Obviously, Heupel's still there running the offense. Is this going to be a perfect match? These two guys in Knoxville.
I actually do. I think the defense has struggled. It was the right move to move on from their previous defensive coordinator. Jim Knowles he's got a 3-year deal, $2.2 million per year. That's premium money. And I think what they did is they decided, you know what, like rather than throwing a dart and paying someone less, let's get some certainty in the building. And I think a coach, I mean, he's had multiple top 15 defenses on his resume. He knows what he's doing. That's going to draw premium talent as well. I think guys will want to come and play for Jim Knowles on the defensive side. And whatever money you are paying someone like Jim Knowles to be in that position, your ability to retain defensive players when the transfer portal has been so prolific and guys are moving 5, 6, 7 times within their career. I think it's really important to have someone in there that guys actually want to stay and play for. So I think Tennessee's defense is back. I don't know what they'll be next year. But I think that defensive side has been the part that's been hurting, and this shores that up.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. I think it's a great pick for them, and bringing in an experienced coordinator certainly helps a head coach out. Any other storylines really top of the mind for you this week?
Yeah, I'm looking for you to just get your crystal ball out and take a journey. Take a journey with me, Kevin. So way too early, 2026 Heisman talk. And so I'm going to throw some names out there. And I want you, if you had $300 to put on somebody, I'd like to know who it is and why, and then who your second choice is. So we got Jeremiah Smith last year, 87 catches, 1,243 yards, 12 touchdowns. If a wide receiver is going to win, I think it is him.
Yep.
Julian saying, I think his big issue last year was the marquee games. He's good, but he can't win the big games. Malachi Tony, he's a wide receiver for Miami. Incredible. I mean, 1,200 yards and an elite third down and return production last year for Miami. Again, I think Jeremiah Smith edges him, but he made such an impact on Miami as a true freshman that I had to throw him on the list. And then finally, Arch Manning. I mean, yeah, the name opens the door for him, but the production, I think, is what decides whether he walks through it or not. He's just not lived up to the hype of Manning. So between Manning, Malachi Tony, Julian Sayin, and Jeremiah Smith, who you got? And if I didn't mention someone that you actually would rather put those $300 on, feel free to throw it out.
Yeah, absolutely. That was gonna be my question was, can I pick a fifth person?
You
Um,
can.
my reason being, you went two wide receivers when it's historically a quarterback award. I'd have trouble putting a wager on a wide receiver this early, and I think Sane and Smith sort of cannibalize each other on who is more productive, who is really the most valuable player on the team when they're both kind of doing well. The year that Devontae Smith won, his stats were so ridiculously inflated compared to what Mac Jones was doing that it was a no-brainer. But if Sayan is still putting up good stats, I just think it might be difficult unless he has a real nuclear season. Uh, this might be recency bias, but I'm going to go Josh Hoover, Indiana. I think the cast of characters that they have, there's a proven formula there to do it, and he would be the big fish facilitating, putting up Heisman worthy numbers. What even if Indiana doesn't go on an undefeated run, if they lose one or two games next year, make a playoff run, and he puts up ridiculous stats, I could easily see Josh Hoover being a Heisman. So I think that would have to be my pick. If I had a crystal ball and I had to pick somebody right now, it's hard to repeat and say, hey, they had a Heisman Trophy winner this year. That's automatically going to happen. But I just like the culture, the characters around him, and that he can really shine in that role. And Sig's going to put up some points. So give me Josh Hoover if I had to take someone. How about you? What would your pick be?
I like that. I think I threw wide receivers in there because I have a bone to pick with the Heisman.
Yep.
I know it's been historically a quarterback award, but like let's mix it up a little bit. So
Yeah.
I think I'm going to mix it up. I think that Julian Sand is going to have a better year, and next year than he did this year. I think he's going to turn that narrative around. That he can't win the big games, and he's going to. Jeremiah Smith was not targeted. I mean, his freshman year, it seemed like every game they were throwing him the ball, and whether people were guarding him or not, or if he was double teamed, he was still bringing those catches in. And Jeremiah Smith has a look in his eye. So I'm taking Jeremiah. I'm taking Jeremiah Smith next year, not Julian Sand, um, because I just think I think he is going to be the reason that Ohio State continues to win the big game. So $300 on Jeremiah Smith. It's fake money because I cannot spend $300 on almost anything right now. But give me Jeremiah Smith.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. 12 touchdowns this past year. If he could put up like 15 to 17 touchdowns, 90 catches, and some ridiculous yards, he'd be right there. He'd be right there.
Isn't that
One,
wild though? Like 87 catches, almost 1,300 yards, and 12 touchdowns, and it feels like a down year. It
yeah.
feels like why didn't you target him more?
Yeah, I like the Jeremiah Smith pick. I just think the year Devontae Smith won the Heisman, his stats were 117 receptions, 1,800 yards, 23 touchdowns. So, like, a truly exceptional season. The Travis Hunter, truthers out there will do what they're going to do. But yeah, it'll be tough. It'll be tough. But like you said, if Smith does those things, I think it would be definitely a chance. So let's talk Trinidad Chambliss. Chambliss happened this week. He had his hearing. Duffy and I talked a little bit about it last week. But what did we expect to happen when a Mississippi judge was the one ruling on whether or not he plays college football in Mississippi in 2026? So obviously the ruling came down on Thursday. He will be pending any other, monkeys in the hat that the NCAA might have. This should be a final ruling, and he will be the starting quarterback for Ole Miss in 2026, unless he transfers. That could be crazy, but I think he's going to play. And like we talked about last week, he is deserving just because of his the time he spent in Division Two. But it is one other storyline here. Came out this week a ninth year of eligibility. I don't have his name written down, but a Montana linebacker given a ninth year of college football. Now, rather than going off on this kid, I think we need to rebrand how, like, it is a mess right now, and all these COVID years and eligibility and injuries, but I think we need to rebrand. And I know why people do it. It's clickbaity. It got, you hooked me in when you see ninth year of college football. I'm like, oh yeah, let me read that right now. But it's not the actual story. And so it's not like this guy has played 8 seasons of college football and now he's playing in ninth at 28 years old with a mortgage and 4 kids. Like, I don't know his exact story, but I looked up his stats and he had like maybe 2.5 years of like Division 1 statistics. So I'm guessing a lot of injuries. I'm guessing some situations have come up. Obviously, COVID years. I just think the story, and I've been quick to jump on guys when it's just, hey, this is their 6th year of college football. I just think you have to. It should be like he's granted a 4th year of eligibility to play or something, not just like he's starting his 9th year. Like, saddle up, everybody who just got out of high school. So I don't know. Am I overreacting on that, or what are your thoughts on how these narratives are handled in most situations?
I I think it's another case, just like NIL, just like the college football playoff, where the NCAA is way over their skis. They've opened Pandora's box, and I believe the beginning of this was last year. It probably happened before, but like last year with Diego Pavio, where it was like, well, no, I played, in another division, and it's just well, and COVID obviously threw a wrench into a lot of this. But you're absolutely right. The gentleman's name is Solomon Tuliapupu, ninth year of eligibility. He turns 26. His career does include multiple season ending injuries, medical waivers, COVID year. It's not normal, but it's legally consistent with the current NCAA rules. But that doesn't mean that it should be happening. And so I'm not a college football player. I've never been, but if you get injured while you're playing the game and you get a medical like I don't think those waivers should mean, okay, that means you get an extra year. Like, where does it actually end? So the NCAA, among a myriad of other things, needs to put some guidelines, some guardrails on some of this stuff and start enforcing it. Trinidad Chambliss should not be having to go to court and fighting for a 6 year of eligibility when they're granting this type of eligibility for other players into eighth and ninth years. There's another guy on Miami, Torre, defensive players going into his 8th year. It's just
Yeah.
let's
But he
let's
hasn't played
rein it
that's my
in.
whole thing is he hasn't played 8 years. We say that, but, like, even his 6th year of eligibility, it's like these guys haven't played 5 or 6 years, and then, "Oh, yeah, and I need my 7th." I don't know. Let's keep it moving. I just it just it ruffles my feathers. I see this stuff. I fall for it. I click on the links too, but I'm just like, can we rework how we discuss the narratives out there? But it is interesting. Hey, kid gets his 9th season. That certainly is a click worthy title. So props to those.
All right, everybody. Now is the time. Real quick before we jump into the NFL, I want you to know that this is not just our show, it's the community's. So if you want to jump on with us during the regular season and get your takes featured, like and subscribe on YouTube and stay active in the comments at the TSP community. Thank you for sticking with us.
All right, so we've got What Are the Odds back again this week, and we don't know if this is going to stick around as a permanent feature here, but we had to bring this back at least one more week because this is many a nights when we were yeah, living in the same city. This is just the ridiculous things that we have both had to do because of this silly game. So we explained it a little bit last week, and maybe we'll get into a full What Are the Odds game breakdown. But I like the concept, the roots back to our friendship, and the play on the sports world. So I think it works out well. So let's go back to this. We've got What Are the Odds? Will Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and or Joe Burrow ever win a Super Bowl? And so my question for you is in a year where and we're going to get more into this as we recap 2025. So this is the quick answer and then we'll go more in depth. But in a year where the AFC was wide open, none of the big four got it done. And so will they ever get it done? You don't necessarily have to give a reason for all of them, but do you think those big three or four are ever going to catch Mahomes, win a Super Bowl, or are the young guns taking over in the AFC?
Let me just first say that this What Are the Odds game has forced me out of honor to take a bite out of a display ice cream cone at a local ice cream shop and put it right back in the display as the employee was looking right at me. So
Love
hey,
it.
the honor is real. Integrity, folks, integrity. So
That's right.
Joe Burrow, I'll make this very simple. Joe Burrow is not going to win a Super Bowl as long as he stays in Cincinnati. Lamar Jackson, I don't believe he's going to win a Super Bowl because look at the team that they just had, and they
Yeah.
didn't even make, they didn't even make the playoffs. And so I don't know what's going on there. I know that he's electric on the field. I don't know what needs to happen because when you look on paper, they certainly should have. The Buffalo Bills, I can see every year why they fail to make it. It seems like that defense has continued to be injuries, and their defense have continued to be their Achilles heel. I think Josh Allen does get a Super Bowl. And I'm not just saying that because I am a Buffalo Bills fan, but I think they're making the moves they need to make in order to make that happen. At least we can point to the Buffalo Bills and say, this is why you didn't make it.
Yeah.
I can't do the same for Lamar Jackson. And I think Cincinnati's just, I don't know. They might be forever cursed. If there's any Cincinnati fans out there, let me know. Do you feel like your team is cursed? Because they can't get it together. And I don't think their ownership and general manager is very interested in putting the right pieces in place. So
I'm gonna say this might break your heart. I think it's I mean, even Peyton Manning got one late in his career. I think I'm gonna say a no on Josh Allen, maybe on Lamar. And the only path I could see for Joe Burrow is like if a Minnesota Vikings makes the trade, rights the ship of letting Sam Darnold walk out the door and brings him in. Joe Burrow to me has shown me the most that he has the clutch gene required to show up big in these moments. And it is a team game, 100%. Um, but you have to be big on third down. You have to make plays when your team requires of you. And as we transition here into our Super Bowl reactions, like, did Sam Darnold play the game of his life? Absolutely not. He didn't play spectacular, but he made enough plays to get them down the field into field goal range to put points up. And so that to me is important. Yeah, if he would have went for 304 touchdowns, we'd all be talking and squawking and MVP, next GOAT, all that stuff. But just being efficient when you need to be, I think, is huge. And so any reactions you have from the Super Bowl? Obviously, I have to let me put the camera back on here. I've got to eat my crow, TSP. I was the lone host of our core five on the paddle in my boat of Patriots. I was not jumping on the bandwagon. I am a Philadelphia Eagles fan. In part, I didn't want my son to become a Seahawks fan. In part, I just thought the Vrabel effect would prevail, and I was wrong. So I eat that, I take that, and Any other reactions do you have to the Super Bowl? All right, Booker. So what reactions do you have to the Super Bowl, the big game? Seahawks brought their belts, stomped the Patriots. You were right. What do you got for us?
I think Sam Darnold is one of the most brilliant quarterbacks in the league. He is not the most talented, but he is brilliant. He knew that his role was to not have any turnovers. The man had 20 turnovers during the regular season and zero during the postseason. No one's ever done that before. So
Yeah.
he knew where the strength was on his team. That's the defense. And he knew he just needed to be smart with the ball.
So obviously Kenneth Walker won the Super Bowl MVP. Do you think it was deserving? Obviously, it was deserving, but who, in your opinion, should have won the MVP? If not Kenneth Walker, who do you think should have won?
I think the kicker maybe should have won the MVP. The man had, let's see here, he made 5 field goals. He accounted for 17 of 29 points. Jason Myers, and that's a Super Bowl record. I know they had a defensive touchdown. I know they had AJ Barner also had a touchdown, but I don't know that changed the game. Just nickel and diming up the field and then taking the 3 points. And so they just played smart football. It was a bit of a snooze fest, absolutely, but they played smart football and now they're celebrating a Super Bowl win. And so, uh, yeah, I hope the next year, the next year's game is a little more entertaining. I'll tell you what, if Josh Allen was in the Super Bowl, that would have been a much more entertaining game.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the kicker certainly would have been worthy. Clutch move from TSP putting the kicker and punter here into our graphic. Honestly, you could have given it to the punter or the kicker in this situation. I would have liked to see big number, was it 9 or 7, the big boy who scored the touchdown. I thought that would have been interesting. And then obviously when that touchdown got called back from Kenneth Walker, that would have put him over 200 yards and a touchdown. I was like, now it might be on the fence. So I think they got it right because that ball control, the running attack did help them win the game. It was just a tricky one this year because it was the ultimate team win. But I like your take there of give it to the kicker. If they were ever going to do it, this would have been the year to do so. So how
I'll
about
tell you what
let's
though,
go?
the NFL knew
Yeah.
they would be admitting defeat if they gave it to the kicker. They would basically be saying, "Yeah, thank you for sticking around. We know most of you only stuck around because of the halftime show. This was a snooze fest of a game. Here's the MVP to the kicker." So they weren't gonna, they're never gonna do that because that's gonna throw shade at themselves. But
And
but
and
yeah,
you
he
spoke
definitely had the biggest impact.
you spoke pretty highly there of Sam Darnold. Let's just briefly touch on his legacy. It's way too early to tell. Obviously, these conversations when somebody's still playing is a little bit challenging. But to me, the Joe Flacco comparisons are all too real. And I know there's been comparisons to Jalen Hurts this week of they've both got carried by this super team. For the record, Jalen Hurts, Super Bowl MVP, put up 40 points. Offense was lights out. Yes, and a good defense too, but these two are not the same. However, I don't even say the Joe Flacco comparison as a negative. I just think like that year Joe Flacco won the Super Bowl, like he caught fire in the playoffs, sort of like you were just talking. He didn't turn the ball over. He was lights out come playoff time. So I don't think of the Joe Flacco comparison as a negative, but just as a is Sam Darnold good enough to win multiple Super Bowls, or is this is his moment? This is the peak of Sam Darnold. Obviously, 15 wins for the Vikings last year, so this isn't quite a one hit wonder. But yeah, what do you think when it's all said and done? What kind of legacy will we be talking about for Sam Darnold?
I think anyone who compares Sam Darnold to Jalen Hurts must be like a Patrick Mahomes lover because that's the most ridiculous comparison I've ever heard. Like
Yeah,
they are not even close to the same. I do like the Joe Flacco comparison because I think Joe Flacco is also a very smart guy. He's not that Jalen Hurts is not, but Jalen Hurts was obviously a part of like a main cog in that Super Bowl winning team. I wouldn't say Sam Darnold was like this main cog. Like it was like situational awareness, playing the game smart in a smart way, and managing it. And I think Joe Flacco is a game manager as well, and that's why he's still around. I don't know if he'll play next year, but I think that's why he's still around. So yeah, not in a bad way, I think that that's a great comparison, and I do not think Sam Darnold gets another ring. I think the stars aligned here for him, and I'm glad they did because I like the guy, even though I'm not a Seahawks fan. But I think this is his one and only ring.
Yeah. And in not to quite not to quote Michael Irvin and the Miami Hurricanes, and it gets used a lot of bringing out the belts, the BTA, but that's what the Seahawks did here. I mean, on all three phases, coaching, they just straight bullied the New England Patriots. And again, I said at the beginning, I couldn't have been more wrong. When you're going to make predictions and talk about sports in front of a camera and microphone, you're not going to bat 100. And I was paddling uphill. You guys were trying to convince me, and I nonetheless that was. How about this? Did you see the spear for the Seattle Seahawks? You know what spear I'm talking about?
No.
Mike McDonald. They have this giant spear in their team meeting room, and they've been putting the helmets of all the teams that they win, literally spearing their helmets, and it's like stacked up. And then the Patriots were the final one in the spear, almost like the Florida State. So I mean, I probably need Mike McDonald, McDaniel's, two different coaches there. I need him to ride in on a Florida State esque horse next year with that spear. I think that would be electric for sure.
So some
Well,
background on that, Kevin, and this is what the Seahawks were absolutely brilliant. So you know what that spear was when Pete Carroll was there? I know what you're talking about now. I heard
yeah,
this on the radio. It was a basketball hoop. Like it was Pete Carroll's way of being the player's coach, do whatever you want. It's all fun and games. And Mike McDonald comes in there and says, "This no, like we're about business. We are
yeah.
professionals. We're turning this thing into like you are conquering these teams." Uh yeah, I absolutely love the symbolism there and seeing him ride in shirtless or no shirt, like it doesn't matter. He can leave his shirt on if he wants, but being on a horse, maybe a flaming spear of some sort. I love that. I love that. Do it.
All right. So if you tune in next week, we'll recap, break down sort of a final bow tie on the NFL season, the highs, the lows, certain things. Let's do one final piece here for tonight. How about our 2026 way too early Super Bowl predictions? Do you want to go first? Or you want me to take this one?
You go ahead. You go ahead.
All right. We were just talking about it. So motivation is a big deal, and clearly having a good message, having the spear, the chip on their shoulder, the we're the third best team in the NFC West, like that really galvanized this Seattle Seahawks team. So when I'm thinking about next year, I'm thinking what are the teams that are going to have a good narrative to fuel them? They're obviously all professionals. Yeah, you could say they should all just be self-motivated to be the best. Um, but there's truly like that messaging, that giant spear that galvanizes a team, like that stuff does make a difference. So my prediction, and you're gonna call me a homer, but give me the Eagles and the Broncos, a little Crew Talk Sports versus TSP Super Bowl. And here's my reason why. Both of these teams are talented enough. And I think the way that the season ended this year will have that motivation, that extra chip of Broncos fans got to be saying, hey, if Bo Nix doesn't go down, we will compete much better with that Seattle team. This is our year to do it. And then obviously the Eagles writes itself of every other year they go to the Super Bowl. They lost last year was a down year. The motivation, we don't still have it. They're still one of the best talented teams in the NFL. As we saw this year, talent doesn't always get you all the way. But that's my prediction. It's way too early, but give me the Eagles versus the Broncos, TSP Super Bowl, TSP versus Crew Talk Super Bowl. How about you? What's your way too early Super Bowl prediction for 2026?
All right. So I'm gonna go as a homer as well. Bills, Packers. I think that both teams have what it takes to get there. The Bills have made some moves that were shocking after their loss to the Broncos. I think that that is going to galvanize the team. At first, I thought, oh man, they are done for the next decade. Like this ownership has decimated this locker room, throwing shade at Keon Coleman. But Josh Allen has reiterated his commitment to the Buffalo Bills. And I don't know much about the Packers, but I just like what they're doing on defense. Michael Parsons being there. I know he's tore his ACL. But Jordan Love as well. I think Jordan Love is a Super Bowl quarterback, and if they can give him some more assistance on that offensive line and at wide receiver, I mean, Matthew Golden, he's going to have another year. I mean, he's going to have his rookie year under his belt. I just like the look of this Packers team going into 2026, and so give me the Bills over the Packers.
There we go. There we go. You heard it here first. So, all right. Thank you guys for spending some time out of your day to join us this evening on the TSP community. This is the Sideline Podcast, episode 72. Again, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. You can follow us all on X at the TSP community, at HTX Ballco, ALO Leagues, Tyler Diesel, all of our core 5 of hosts. And like Booker said earlier in the show, let's be active in the chat. We like to feature people during the regular season, and we can continue to find ways to highlight and to feature the folks that are part of the community we're trying to build. So again, thanks for spending some time with us this evening. Peace out. Have a good